Hey everyone, I just want to give a quick thanks to everyone for their feedback. I hope you know that I appreciate all of them and hope to keep improving with every video, so thank you. On a side note, I got sick recently, so my voice might sound a bit off, but I still wanted to make a video for you guys, so hope you enjoy. Let's begin. Last night I went to a midnight screening of Princess Mononoke, which ended around 2:30 a.m. I had an offer to go over to a friend's house, but since he was busy packing to move to another city, I decided to just hoof it home. Thankfully, my city, at least on the weekends, had the subway running 24/7, so I didn't have to wait in the cold to take what I like to refer as to the drunken bus. It went rather smoothly. Train arrived shortly after I got on the ground, and I made my connection easy peasy. The issue started when I got off at my stop. As I'm walking to go up to the steps, I hear a woman on the other platform being really loud, easy to ignore. But then I kept hearing her say, "Miss? Miss?" I glanced because I was the only other female on either platform, but I didn't recognize her and kept rolling. I get to the top of the first flight of stairs, and she gets to the top of her stairs at the same time, and once again starts with, "Miss? Miss?" But she looked like she was looking toward the ticket booth, so I assumed she was having an issue with the cops I saw on her platform and was trying to get someone to back her up. So I go through the turns aisle and continue over to the escalator. I get above ground, light a cigarette, and wait for the light to change. Just as I cross the street, the same woman comes out of the stairwell of the corner I just got to. Fuck me. Now, for reference, my subway stops have entrances on the street I was on and on the street I live on. Out of habit, I don't go out on the exit on my street because the walk to my house is a little too dark and desolate. So now I'm boned because I could go back down in my subway and come out on my street, but that doesn't present a better scenario. So I walk, and of course, she follows. She kept saying, "Miss, miss," asking for a light, talking about her some cop who wasn't anything that she didn't care that they took her baby. She wants it back, but doesn't even actually want it, and how she needed to get it to work. I just kept pretending I couldn't hear her and kept walking. The guy who was walking in front of us at one point turned around because, duh, that didn't make her happy, and she gave a quick, "I'm not talking to man, I'm asking her." Another guy walks past us, and she asked the time, 3:08 a.m., which prompted a work comment. Just we get to where I usually turn up to get to my street, the guy in front turns and walks the opposite direction on the same street. Since where I would turn to gets rather dark where the local mechanic shop is, I decided to keep walking straight and hook around at the corner to my block. At the corner, the street I'm on and my street intersect. When I get to the corner and turn on to my street, she's still on my heels. I'm now starting to really panic. There's absolutely no one around, and I can't keep walking further away from my house because it is so poorly lit, and no one is the fuck around. As we round the corner, I hear her say, "There's the path mark." I knew I was close to home. I live right up there. The path mark, about a block and a half up the street, hasn't been open in over a year, but it is a handy landmark, so I start to chalk it up to every creepy coincidence. I proceed to my house and toss the butt of my cigarette into the street, which she picks up and gives an actual sincere thank you. I get to my door and she decides to sit on the steps of a neighbor two doors down from me. I don't know my neighbors like that, but I know for damn sure she doesn't live there. That put me back in panic mode. Now, in hindsight, I should have looped back around and gone back to the subway, but I wasn't thinking clearly. My keys were in my pocket, but I wasn't holding on to the specific two that opened my door, and I didn't want to fumble with them in case she was trying to break in. So I rang my doorbell, pretending I didn't live there and needed to be let in, and decided to wait her out. It took about two doorbell rings and 15 minutes of me looking at the window like I was looking for someone. I live alone. To open the door before she got up and started walking. Mind you, walking in the opposite direction of the path mark. I followed her in the reflection of my screen door until she was far enough away that I could get my keys out and get in the door because she could try whatever it was that she was going to try. I kept rechecking I had locked the door, sat up in bed fully clothed, and cursing myself for misplacing my bat for the rest of the night. I don't live in the best of neighborhoods, but I never had something like that happen scare me shitless. Needless to say, I really regretted not having gone to the liquor store earlier in the day because I seriously needed a fucking drink right then. So, crazy lady from the subway who followed me home, let's never the fuck meet again. Number 2. To begin, I like to say that I'm a male in my mid 20s. When I was in high school, I weighed 305 pounds, but eventually lost all my weight. Now I want 40 pounds through dedicated scheduling of exercising and eating habits. Since then, I frequently go on a walk or jog depending on how I feel. Usually, that betrays me simply doing this activity in my neighborhood. I'm sure many can attest that doing this regularly, it can become very tedious going on the same route and seeing the same old scenery constantly. Like clockwork, I was getting ready to begin my workout, but I decided to change locations. On this particular day, I thought I'd head to the closest playground near my house, which is roughly a 5-minute drive away. This area features a paved circular trail that is a mile in length, and the middle features the playground itself. When I arrived, nothing was necessarily peculiar. There were parents with their children, and you could hear the enthusiasm from everyone. There were many parking spots filled, but I managed to find a decent spot that is close to the starting point. Next to me, however, there was an older gentleman sitting in his vehicle watching the adults and children play. At first, I didn't think much of it or even considered it unusual. I just chalked it up as I just pulled into the parking lot, so this person was already here and probably about to leave. Either that or something else quite innocent. At this point, I'm still sitting in my vehicle, texting a friend of mine who wanted to hang out. We agreed on having dinner at Applebee's once I finished my workout. This back and forth conversation lasted approximately 5 to 10 minutes. All the while, this male individual in his car next to me was still adamantly focusing on their children playing, his attention transfixed on their every move. From that moment forward, my suspicions and theories of who this person might be started ringing the many bells in my head. Within that time frame, some parents were leaving the park while others maintained their play. As usual, I got out of my car, locked my doors, and put my keys into my pocket. I turned the music playlist on my phone and set it to shuffle and began my walk. Being as the trail is a circular formation, I went counterclockwise from my perspective. When I was a little over a quarter of a mile on the walk, something compelled me to look behind me just to see. Noticeably, the remaining parents and children were now starting to leave the area. Nevertheless, the stranger that was parked next to me was still in his vehicle. Once the rest of those in the park were officially gone, leaving just me and him, the only two there, that's when this male individual decided to get out his car. For whatever reason, he walked around to his passenger side, opened the door, and appeared to take something out and put this object in his pocket. When he closed the door, he stood there for a brief moment looking inside my driver's side window. Of course, I knew that trouble was on the way in some form or another, and I prepared myself for what could possibly arise. Interestingly enough, the man starts walking the trail as well. However, instead of following my direction, he went the opposite way, knowing that our paths would eventually cross, unless I turned around. Truthfully, it was quite intelligent of him. He seemed to know what he was doing. Although I still had my headphones on, the music was completely muted. As we were both getting closer to one another, I took my car keys and tightly held them in my palm with the largest key stored in my knuckles like a knife. I was quite surprised on this stranger's stature. He was fairly tall, roughly 6'4", possibly, and incredibly stocky. His attire could be perceived as a factory worker with steel-toe boots and a rugged pair of jeans with a heavy denim jacket. Once we were 5 feet away from each other, I shit you not, he took his hand and grabbed his cock and balls and said to me, "Hi," with this eerie, sarcastic expression. Thankfully, nothing violated took place. I respond with one of those little head nods of acknowledgement, but also a disgusting facial expression. I ignore his attempt at conversation and continue walking. When I was 10 feet away or more, the man shouted, "Hey!" That had a tone of anger. I turned around and said, yeah? He started slowly walking towards me, smiling. Now, one of his hands were in his jeans pocket, and he asked for my name. Obviously, I lied and said Peter. I know, ironic. While he's walking towards me, I was backing up simultaneously. He then asked, "How are you today, Peter?" In response, I told him, "Good, thanks," and continued backing away. He kept trying to insist on having a conversation, with his hand in his pants pocket, and still making his way into my direction. With that strange grin, he asked, "Hey man, want to smoke a joint? Let's go to my car. I have any type of drug you want. How about you come take a look and see what you want?" I gave him one of those sarcastic laughs in reply, also telling him, "Nah man, I'm good. Thanks though." Now, I'm officially walking away from the entire scenario, and took the chance of turning my back on him. My headphones were still muted in order to hear possible footsteps, but nothing happened. I was about 30 feet away, and as I peeked back, the man was still there. One of his hands was on his crotch again, and the other was sincerely waving at me. And yes, he was still smiling at me. When I was near three-fourths done of the walk and much closer to my vehicle, I glanced back to see where the man was. Shockingly, he was still standing in the exact same place from where our one-sided conversation took place. Again, his posture remained in its earlier position. Afterwards, I left the park safely and rationally thought that was a disgusting encounter, and I'll never see him again. A month or two goes by, and that day at the park had already been forgotten and put in the back of my mind. I had to go to the local grocery store, Walmart, to pick up a few items for dinner later that evening. Once I got all the necessaries I needed, I went to the electronics department to see if there was any decent Blu-ray movies that'd be worth buying. When I got to the movie section, sure enough, the mail from the park was already there. Personally, it was more than likely just happen chance, but I made an attempt to leave the particular department without giving off the notion that I saw him. Since I was at the store already, I made my way to the complete opposite side from the electronics department to surprise my son with a new Batman toy he was wanting for a while. Somehow, minutes later, when I'm getting ready to pay for my items, the male stranger ends up spotting me. When he did, as I noticed as well, he stopped for a short moment and was gazing at me. I uttered under my breath, "Ugh, fuck." I tried ignoring the entire ordeal and leave the store as rapidly as possible. Of course, all the checkout aisles were packed and busy, and since this is Walmart we are talking about, only 4 or 5 lanes were open despite the 30 they have, but never used. I felt entirely uncomfortable waiting in line to pay for my items, knowing that it was possible this person could get behind me, as if to weigh himself, or say or do God knows what. Therefore, I took my shopping cart and trekked back to the electronics section since the person wasn't there any longer. Go figure, he started trailing me. Although we both knew we were in the store, I'm unsure whether or not he realized I caught a glimpse of him following me this go around. Because of this, I made the decision to play cat and mouse to properly make sure he was tailing me. When I arrived at the electronics section, he too was close by. I didn't remain long in that department, and this time I went to the hygiene aisle, where the deodorant and body wash is. I actually needed a few items from here anyway, so I added a few more things to my shopping cart. Nevertheless, the man seemed to casually walk near me as if I weren't noticing. Even though he was stalking me, a part of me wanted to consider that nothing was but a coincidence. This time, I made a destination for the clothing aisle. Once more, he was there. From here, now that I'm wholeheartedly convinced the man is watching and following me in my every move, I took my phone out, turned the camera app on, and pressed the option key to have the camera face in my direction, as if I was going to take a selfie picture. Then, I propped my phone up in my cart and tried concealing it version, but having enough opening to see someone behind me. This time, I went to the lawn and garden area. As he was following me, I was able to get a good visual on my phone, and since holidays were coming soon, this area of the store was being worked on by employees, setting up decorations and stocking shelves. Due to it being particularly busy, I managed to escape the area maneuvering in and out of various aisles without him noticing. When the timing was right, I quickly made my way to the nearest checkout aisle that wasn't frequent at the time. Despite the immense amount of inconvenience this man was causing me, everything went smoothly. When I got home, I looked at the footage I recorded. Obviously, it was strange, but a bit humorous as well. What caught my attention was that the man's demeanor in the lawn and garden area of the store. After escaping his stalking, the video captured him walking to each aisle trying to find me, peeking down each row in hopes of seeing me. He seemed quite confused and angered by my presence not being there. Out of curiosity, I uploaded the video to social media explaining the situation I was facing with this stranger. Luckily, I had a few replies from other locals who said that they know the person and that he's done this degenerate act multiple times before to other people, one specific incident taking place at a church. Furthermore, he was registered as a sexual offender and is not allowed to be at any of the local parks in town. And if approached by the individual, be wary because he is incredibly dangerous and should be alerted by authorities. It's been a few years now since the unfortunate occurrence, and nothing has happened since. Sometimes, I'll get online and visit our local police website where it features a comprehensive list of current jail inmates and see if he's where he belongs. But other quite than that, things have been great on my end. I think it's appropriate to say, dear sex offender, let's not meet.